I've created what I call a market update. And every single Thursday, I go around on Snapchat. That's where I record most of it. I then share it to Facebook stories. I share it to Instagram stories. I share it to TikTok stories.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast, the podcast dedicated to simplifying the commercial real estate industry for the masses. Each week, we sit down with industry experts to dissect the many facets of commercial real estate and extract valuable lessons you can apply to your business. Whether you're a new or seasoned business owner or investor, the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast will be your go-to resource for all your commercial real estate needs. Now, here are your hosts, Raphael Collazo and Jeff Walston.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast. I'm your host, Raphael Collazo, here with my co-host, Jeff Walston. How's it going, my friend?
It's going great over here. I cannot wait to rock out and go towards my goals that I've set forth. So I'm excited for that. I'm all about goal setting and actually writing them up on my vision board, essentially, over here in my office. But yeah, I'm excited. What about you, Raphael? How's it going over there?
Going great. Really well. Similar to you, I think it's the first, near the first of the year. We just, as we're recording this, and obviously goals are important to set, and so I'm similar to you. It's pretty busy the last several months, and so just trying to get a handle on it. But today, we have a phenomenal guest. Someone I've actually seen on social, and I've seen a lot of his content. Does a lot of really cool stuff, and so we're really excited to host Bucky today to learn a little more about his story. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite, you guys. And I'm excited to be a part of your podcast.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. No, we're honored to have you on. But what we typically like to do when we first get started with the podcast is we like to ask our guests to contribute or tell us a little bit more about themselves. So if you don't mind kind of sharing your backstory, I think that'd be helpful.
Great. I think I'm 33. Sometimes I lose track how old I am. I have to think about what year it is. I got into the business shortly after high school, 2009. And it was just because a friend of mine was telling me that people that have done well in their career have somehow been involved with real estate. We were doing a lawn care business at the time. And so I said, well, I got nothing else going. I'm not going to college. I had the entrepreneurial bug in the spirit and decided to get my real estate license. And I would say approximately 2011 to 2012, things started gaining traction. And one of the things I noticed is that in my market, no one was marketing online the way that they could. And it became natural to me growing up with the internet and being active. So I remember for a period of time, I was one of the only guys online on LoopNet, which now it's like, how do you not know what LoopNet is? And so it built leads and that kind of spurred my interest into online marketing and how to use it to my advantage. And through that process, I really fell in love with commercial real estate and just how it involves so much of people's daily lives and their business and their entrepreneurial journey. And it's just such a multifaceted career path that I've truly enjoyed. And to this day, I've really focused on commercial real estate as my main core business. I do have some other entrepreneurial ventures, owning real estate, co-working space, some side businesses, but sales, leasing, that is how I make a majority of my income. I'm a business partner with Nick Pompane in a firm called Realty Growth in Southeast Minnesota. His father founded the company and I joined a few years ago and became partners with him. And we're just trying to grow a bigger real estate firm than just Southeast Minnesota. And, our goal would be someday, can we be in multiple markets? Can we help people like ourselves that have a dream of building a career and plug in the internet, plug in marketing to help them build further than they could just besides themselves. So that's a little quick summary about myself.
That's awesome, man. No, and you kind of alluded to some of the talking points that I love to talk about during the interview and primarily related to the digital presence online. Obviously one of the things that you often hear from people who've been in the business for a long period of time is that it's definitely a meat and potatoes business about how you lead generate. But as the future comes forth, which it will, there are a lot of opportunities for people who start early in the process of creating this type of content to benefit from it long term. And so I think that you're one of the early ones when it came to operating within that space, and obviously it's paying dividends now where you're starting to get recognized in a variety of different capacities. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely starting from 2009, right out of high school. Typically, I think majority of the time when that happens is something to do with family. Somebody's in the business and it's like, hey, come on over. You might as well do this. So I like that your friend drug you into it, and now it sounds like you're exceeding expectations of the market out there. I like how you said that you are involved in co-working space. I know Raphael and I both were pretty interested in that at one point in time. I'm curious to see out there how it's going for you and in Minnesota and in your area. And if you could elaborate just a little bit on that, it'd be great.
On the co-working side specifically, Jeff?
Yeah, specifically co-working would be
Yeah, absolutely. So approximately 3 years ago, landlord had me marketing a space that was tough to fill. It was in really rough shape, hadn't been updated probably since the 50s. And so together we came up with the idea, what if we were to create a co-working space that is in downtown Rochester, Minnesota, close to the Mayo Clinic, that would have separate offices, so kind of executive suite style, 6 private offices, along with a shared conference room and a shared kitchenette area and some hot desk working spaces that someone could come in and work if they don't have a specific office. And right out of the gates, now this is pre-COVID, so it might've been 4 years ago, right out of the gates, things were good. Some success stories there. We had a young entrepreneur come to us, wanted to build a media company. He's gone on to now have his own space outside of the co-working space, and his company is growing to 5+ employees. But I won't forget the day when it's just him with the idea and his brother. And they just needed a place to land to try to build this idea out, and just being next to like-minded entrepreneurs trying to grow something. It just, I think, helped them. And I think they would attest to that. So pre-COVID, great. COVID hits. That was a shocker, obviously, for the whole world and specifically to this space. And so I fortunately found another entrepreneur that started a concept of a Facebook ad type company. And he was trying to grow this company kind of through COVID to help spur his business in another type of industry he was in. And he was able to secure the whole space at a discounted rate for just over a year. Now, as of January 1, he's since vacated the space. So I'm back to like, oh crap, I got to fill this space again with members and co-working. But what I'm seeing is, and I'm curious to your guys' feedback on this, companies, because of COVID, are really trying to understand how much space they want to truly pay for. So this Facebook ad company, they felt in the beginning, building their company, they needed a space that had the right vibe to build that culture. They found out shortly in a year, hey, we don't need to pay $3,000 a month for 2,500 square feet. We would like to come here 2 to 3 times a week. We'd like to have our team meetings here, but a majority of our staff can work from home. And so I think that is definitely the way of the future. Even in our brokerage, it's like we're paying $3,000 a month for 3,000 square feet. Do we need this space all the time? There's benefits to being around other companies. And so as a result, I'm terrified of the monthly expenses co-working space is costing me, but I'm excited for what the future is going to hold because of the type of companies that we're going to attract that are not the same that they were pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, I really feel like it was solo entrepreneurs. Post-COVID, I feel like it's companies that are really finding a way, and I love this term. I know I didn't come up with it, but I like to think I did. Space as a subscription. And so if I'm a commercial user of a space, I want to subscribe to a space like I do my gym. I want to pay $500 a month and get access X amount of days of the month. And that's where I think we're headed with a certain type of company.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think, that's a very astute observation. And, I had actually looked at doing a co-working development for myself back in like post COVID. It was kind of in that, lull period between the summertime where, we thought that it was over when in reality it wasn't. So, we'd put a building under contract. I was planning it out to how we could essentially, hit the ground running come late 2020 and early 2021. Obviously banks were very rigid about how they were loaning money at that time, especially for something like a co-working space where no one was in the office. And so unfortunately it didn't go through, but I'm very bullish on the future of co-working and like you said, the subscription model of office. And we've had several people on the calls or on the podcast that have, there's one gentleman out of New Jersey who has a few buildings dedicated strictly to co-working, and he's done several developments that have been focused on that, and he's doing very well. And I've had Bo Barron's, another friend of ours who is also a CCIM instructor, and he did a project where he bought a strip center that had some office in the back that was kind of dead and really wasn't, visible to the, it had retail value was very low, but he was able to convert it into, executive suites. And now the investments is doing very well. And he has a wait list for people who want access to that space too. So, obviously it's kind of interesting to hear your perspective in your market, because it seems to me that in other parts of the country, it's also indicative of what's going on. So,
yeah. And if I had to at a high level explain the master plan, it would be, you have multiple spaces with different atmospheres, with different amenities that attract people to want to subscribe, just like a gym does. And that subscription gets you access to the different spaces. And even this morning, I was talking to a person that's using part of a space that the full thing isn't being occupied. And we just started talking about this content creation, how there needs to be a space, and they exist in other markets, but not in ours, where you can show up, create your content. You have a professional background, all the equipment's there. You didn't have to pay the money for the camera, the mic, everything that goes along with it. And because you're a subscriber to those spaces, that's one of the multiple spaces you get access to. And that's really what I'd like to try to dream to build out. We'll see, knock on wood, it can happen this year. I definitely have some spaces that are costing me monthly, and I need to figure it out sooner than later.
Sure. No. And maybe, like you said, you put it out to, like, you create like a plan, like a architectural plan, or quote unquote, and then you just start marketing it to the broader audience as kind of like hey, this is something that I'm thinking about doing, who would be potentially interested in something like that. And maybe you get some bites there, but I think it's a brilliant idea. Really. I think it could potentially work out really well for you. So.
And what I love it being in the market that I'm in, it's a small market, population 130,000, is like, we don't have the big players in our market in several industries, not medical. We're covered on the medical end because of the Mayo Clinic, but everything else. So as a result, you can get ideas from other large markets and then try to bring them to a small, mid-sized market and profit from it.
That's amazing. No, for sure. So one of the things you mentioned is your decision to, become a part owner of, the Realty Growth Inc. So what made you, I guess, decide to do that relatively early on in your career? Because you said you started in 2009. If I'm not mistaken, you came on board on the Realty, Growth Inc. in 2012. I guess, how was that transition? And then maybe what are some of the early struggles you faced in that transition?
Yeah. So pre-Realty Growth, I was working alongside a guy that had done it just part-time. I was still running my lawn care business and some other ventures. And he had just really encouraged me to kind of get into sales. And he was selling pharmaceuticals full-time, but doing commercial real estate on the side. And eventually he moved away from town due to his job. And so I was kind of running solo, while still making money as my main core business being the lawn care side of things. And when I met Nick had moved newly to town, and he was not seeing many people in his office because his father's near retirement age, and some of the older veterans there, they were not coming into the office. So it was a smart move for me to jump over and just be around someone that was active on a daily basis. And that helped me get into it full time and not have to rely on the lawn care business as my sole income. Becoming a partner, I think the decision-making for me was, I did have to buy in. So it wasn't like it was an easy type of decision financially. I think that it was more so just like, I'm committed to this and I want to build something and I want to build it. And I've always had that kind of mentality, just the entrepreneur in me, of like, I want to build something that is with other people or even on my own, to try to bring it to something bigger than just my own sales career. Something that, and we talked about in our meeting this morning, actually, legacy per se, like something you can hand down to family that they can be involved. If it's not that, something you can sell that has value. And like, so, I mean, it really was out of the spirit of just wanting to build something with someone. And that's what essentially got me to that point of pulling the trigger to want to buy in and be a partner. I'll be honest with you, and I don't know how much you talk about this. Brokerage, if you're a small brokerage firm, you don't make a lot of money as a brokerage firm. You know, the individuals, the salespeople, the ones that are out pounding the pavement, making things happen, you can make six figures plus there if you're doing hard work every single day. But the brokerage, when you have a small team, when it all comes down to the bottom line at the end of the year, there's not a lot of meat on the bone. And that's why you see the big brokerages, they tend to just bring in a lot of people, charge them desk fees, charge them other fees. And that's how it funnels down to the brokerage making money. That's not our model. So it's not like buying in was me thinking that I'm going to become wealthy owning a brokerage. It was more so, can we build something that has value that in the future could be worth more than what I could have built on my own as an individual sole practitioner and salesperson?
Yeah, no. And that's a very important point, like you said, because there's a lot of people out there that have aspirations for, owning their own brokerage or, starting something like that. When in reality, you understand that, it takes a while for you to become a profitable enterprise just on the brokerage standpoint. Obviously, from the salesperson standpoint, you can make, like you said, six figures or more, if you're willing to get out there, pound the pavement and whatever else. So, the running of a brokerage is a lot of admin, obviously a lot of legal responsibility on your part as well. And that's, like you said, one of the big reasons, like some of these larger brokerages like JLL, Cushman, they charge you 50% or more for, the splits, which, obviously I think is quite significant, but in their case, they have a lot of overhead. They've got media, they got all these different things that they're providing their agents. And, ultimately that you end up paying for it. So yeah, it's an interesting insight you shared.
Yeah. And I'm absolutely happy that I made the decision to buy in, but I won't say that without saying it comes with a lot of work. And I don't know that this path is easier than any other path, but at the end of the day, there's joy majority of the days versus the days that there isn't. And that's why I absolutely love the decision that I made to become a part of a firm that I think we can build it into something bigger than just our market. Absolutely.
And I think, what you had mentioned about buying in, I think commitment comes with putting your neck on the line, right? So I think that, not only is it, obviously it's a financial obligation, but that kind of solidifies that commitment because it's like, okay, now I have a vested interest in the success of this enterprise. Whereas before, although you may want to succeed within the organization, that vesting is not there. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yep. And also, this I think would come naturally whether I was a partner or not, but it certainly is even more present when you're a partner, is that you share in everybody else's success, meaning I really, 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 really want to see everybody else in my firm succeed. And when you're a sole practitioner in a larger firm, it's there, but there's definitely cultures where I explain it as a card game. Certain individuals within the firm don't want to show their cards to someone else in the firm because they're afraid that it's going to put them at a disadvantage. And that is not our culture. Our culture is, hey guys, here's all of our cards. How can we work together to try to win this game per se, whether it's with an individual client, an individual property, whatever the case may be. And I think that's even easier to do when you're vested into something that's for the better good of all that are involved and not just yourself.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Definitely.
So in 2012, when you were I don't know if you were throwing the idea around to invest in this, did it pop into your mind to look into the residential side of real estate, or was that just not even an option for you at that time?
So when I got licensed 2009, I was 18 turning 19, and I joined a residential firm that to this day is still very active in our market, and I know the broker real well. What I experienced is that, kind of back to the card game analogy, there wasn't much sharing of information. And so as a result, it just wasn't a fun environment every single day to be in because you weren't getting that collaboration type atmosphere. That may have changed since I was there, but that's what I experienced. And so, looking to commercial, I think what I just found in the first broker that I once went over to prior to Realty Growth was that he was talking to business owners on a daily basis, relatively daily, because it wasn't full time for him. And that ended up sparking my interest because it was different conversations than I had experienced in my limited time over at the residential brokerage. And you hear about it in a lot of these conversations. It's the business mindset versus the person moving into a home, emotional mindset of what fits my lifestyle. It's more so what fits my pocketbook and how do I build something of substantial value. And it got me super excited about those conversations. And those brought way more joy than the other conversations. To this day, I probably sell, I'm guessing, I probably sell 10 homes a year. And they tend to be to entrepreneurs that have worked with me on the commercial side, that they're like, you're my guy. And so, hey, we're looking at buying some land. We want to build our dream house. You've helped us buy apartments and sell apartments. Will you do it? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like, I love you guys. So I still do it. But it's not what I market. It's not what I go out and hunt every single day. It's more the ones of the clients that are your lifer clients that are just like, we want your help related to all real estate in our entire life.
That's awesome, man.
I completely understand. I'm a commercial general contractor. So one of my clients, he asked, who did I know that would do residential? Because he knows that normally I don't do residential. And eventually he finally called me after making a few phone calls to other contractors and was like, hey, I'd rather you do it. I know that it's going to cost me a little more, but I trust you and I built that relationship and I enjoy working with you. Same thing. So I can completely relate to that. So,
yeah.
And one thing I would add there, I would just say I am, and this came with time, but I feel as though I'm now at a point maturity wise, when I don't feel that I'm competent or best fit, I don't try to fake it. There definitely probably was a time in my career where I remember one of my best leads I ever got on LoopNet early on in my career. Guy wants to buy a big building. He inquires on some for lease space and I grab on and I chase that lead as hard as I can. I sell him a 7-figure building. I have no business selling this guy a 7-figure building in my 20s, but it was just because I had the tenacity of doing it and being like, I can help. And it ended up being a success. Thanks be to God. But ultimately, I was faking it there a little bit because I was not qualified just yet. In my mind, tenacity-wise, I was. Experience-wise, I was not yet. It panned out good. But now I've got to a point where I have some great clients. I just had one come to me, and they own a lot of commercial property, and they happen to own over 100 acres of land. And they're like, hey, would you consider listening, or what's your thoughts? And I'm like, I'm not the land guy for you that's going to do the best for you. Referred it out to a guy that works at Whitetail Properties. The guy sold it in less than 6 months. I got a referral check coming. I'm just like, that was the right move. I could have put my sign. I could have tried. I might have found the buyer. I feel way better off giving it to their people that are really good at their jobs when you see fit.
That's awesome. No, I couldn't agree more, especially on land and with developable land. Like we have a gentleman in our office who that's primarily what he does. He's like a land broker. And it's just amazing the knowledge he has about, all the different nuances of the development process, especially locally, because development is local. It's not national. I mean, every municipality is going to have its own way of doing things. And not only that, a lot of times they have relationships with developers because of the fact they operate in that arena all the time. So, their ability to source opportunities can be a lot quicker than someone who doesn't necessarily have that experience. And so I've picked his brain a lot on smaller land deals. And, sometimes, you just got having the wherewithal and saying, you know what, maybe this isn't a good fit for me, and passing it along is definitely helpful. So yeah, that's awesome, man.
And I'll add to one I'm really excited to be working with right now is on the business broker side. I got a really good business broker that I've been referring a lot of business to, and we're jointly putting in effort into some of these listings, but it's a business combined with real estate. And man, the way his marketing is set up, the way that he captures leads, the type of buyers he attracts, it's a total different type of buyer than I would ever find. And I do think us being a team, we're doing much better for the client than we would even solely. So there's definitely times where I really enjoy the teamwork potential that you can have with the right people.
That's awesome. Definitely great insight. So one of the things that I think would be really valuable for us to talk about is obviously, you're very active in the digital landscape. Obviously Instagram, you're very active on. I've seen several of your YouTube videos. I know you do market updates where you go into different business owners' spaces and kind of highlight their business, which I think is ingenious. But what are some of the initiatives that you've taken on? And then I guess, how is that translated into, either exposure for your business or maybe even sourcing opportunities?
Yeah, that's a whole can of worms I could talk for hours on. So I'll do my best to try to contain my passion and the different, ways I can take this conversation. I'll start with a big vision and say, I've really started to subscribe to a lot of people on YouTube, not necessarily in the commercial real estate realm, in different realms. They might have a real estate theme in certain topics. And one specifically is Cody Sanchez, and she is goes by Contrarian Thinker. And one thing she said recently is she said, and I'll probably butcher this a little bit, but equity firms, private equity firms, the ones that have media integrated into their business as a way of educating, informing people online, are going to get more opportunities to then in turn build their equity firm, because they're so transparent with education and they're so transparent with what they're doing. And as a result, she has taken that model and put it into her own personal brand, and she's getting opportunities to buy businesses all over the country. So I would just say, go and watch some of her YouTube stuff. That is where I think the best brokerages are going to be in the future, is the ones that integrate media as a major investment component piece to their business. And that all stems from Gary Vee back in 2011, 12. He said, you need to get on Snapchat. And that's when I got on Snapchat and started creating content, had no one following me. But his whole thesis is, you got to be a media company first, comma, whatever else you do. So media company, comma, commercial real estate agent, media company, comma, plumber, company, comma, private equity group. That being said, I have been very consistent since I heard Gary Vee talk about that many years ago, of producing content from my phone on a regular basis. I've added in a videographer that helps with segments. Think of it as your news segments, interviews. My next level I want to take it going into this new year is really being a full-blown YouTube creator around video content that ultimately educates, informs, and entertains people around the topic of somehow integrating commercial real estate. And so I believe that if you're trying to build your own personal brand in commercial real estate and you want an upper leg on the competition, social media and creating content can absolutely help you do that. And the ones that adapt and do it like we're doing here on a podcast will see more opportunities than those that don't adapt. And so that being said, I can go down all the different things I do and my strategies every single day, but my gosh, it has helped my business tenfold. I can't tell you the amount. I don't keep track, but I would not be where I'm sitting today in my career without it, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I echo the same sentiment. And I always tell people when, and we started this podcast, Jeff and I did back in 2021, actually. So we had over a year, actually almost 2 years now, which is crazy. Almost 100 episodes of unique content that we've created as far as interviews are concerned. And it's just been amazing to see the growth that we've experienced just over the last year or so. And the hard part a lot of times for people is that, when you first start, you don't get any view, like you're not getting any positive reinforcement from the effort that you're putting in. And, obviously, when you first start at something, you're not very good at it either. And, you feel like you're just, spinning your wheels and not getting where you need to go. And so that's kind of where I'd say the first 6 months is where people just start saying, it's not worth it. And you know what, even if it takes you a year and a half, you may not see significant results, but this is an exponential game is, the way I view it is that, if you think of like a locomotive or you think of a rocket ship, it burns most of its fuel, like 80 to 90% before it actually takes off. And once it breaks gravity, then, there's almost no energy being expended, but you're still getting significant results as a result of you having put in that effort early on. And so, I'd say that's one piece of advice. I'm sure that's probably what you found after having done this for so many years is like, now the energy that you put in, you get outside results, even though, your energy levels in the space is not as significant as maybe it was back when you started. So.
And I think what I see the struggle being, because I've done all different types of content just to test it out. Mm-hmm. The struggle I have is like when we do podcasts like this, what is the return in the next 3 years per se on this podcast? It's difficult to find measurable returns on a podcast like this that isn't localized type of information, because I'm a practitioner in my local small economy. No one is going to necessarily want to learn about commercial real estate agents in my local economy, except for a small little portion of people. So what I've done is I've created what I call a market update. And every single Thursday I go around on Snapchat, That's where I record most of it. I then share it to Facebook stories. I share it to Instagram stories. I share it to TikTok stories. At one time, LinkedIn had stories. I tried sharing it there. They've since stopped that. And what I do is just document on the news for my community of sharing what the heck is going on. And it's raw. It's me running around with my phone starting at 6 a.m. Check out this new sign. This new business is here. And then I blend in one professional pre-recorded segment that we do with the business. And by doing that on a localized level, I get messages every single week, depending on different channels. It's no one channel or another. It's just a matter of where people watch, where it's, hey, I know a church looking for land. That was a phone call today. Hey, I'm looking at moving my juice shop from a small community to your community. You're the big community. You look like the guy that can help. I had one Instagram follower. This one sticks in my mind, where it was a couple coming from Madison, Wisconsin, which I would consider kind of a cool college town. And they're like, yo, we've been watching on Instagram and you seem like a cool guy. And like, would you just sell us our house? I know it's not your main thing, but like, you know, the community and we want kind of a cool place. You probably know where the cool place is. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely can help. And to this day, I've seen this couple like build their influence in town with some of their social media and stuff. And like, so that's where I think the struggle sits as a commercial practitioner, is you go, well, I can go do a podcast, but like in 3 years, it's going to be tough to see a return on that if I'm talking about my commercial real estate career, where if you can become the news in your local economy, if you can make localized news, you will see a return to your bottom line, I believe, faster than you will in talking about what it's like getting into commercial real estate, how to get your license, what brokers that are doing great you should learn from. It's becoming a part of the community and interconnected in your social media with the community through each channel.
Absolutely. That's some great insight.
You know that so that was like one little tad bit of change that you did, and I'm sure you started that years ago. I'm very curious about other changes, like particularly like in your business and the processes that you may have had, especially during like the shifted environment that we've gone through. Very curious to see what you've did do, and now, you know, if anything has changed and what has. So
yeah, the first big change we made in our firm is we hired someone full-time for marketing. He works every single week. He comes on in and helps us with distribution of content on our brokerage. And he also helps me produce the segment that I once was paying him and other individuals to produce this market update, a high quality video interview every single week. And it was getting costly for me as a sole practitioner. My brokerage wasn't helping pay for it. I was bearing the cost. That integration of a full-time marketing person has helped us become even more relevant in our market. And that's an hourly employee. That was a smart move. This next year, we're making another step of hiring someone starting February 1 that has had his own company for many years, but he just has recognized he doesn't want to keep just building his own company. He really wants to get integrated into a company and have one sole focus of a customer, we'll say. And we're essentially his one and only customer. He's a video first type of content producer. He went to film school. He can do anything from making long segment documentary style films to short little YouTube shorts or Instagram reels. And so we are going to be getting him full-time as a salaried employee, which is a huge investment, a lot of risk on our side, but we just are such a believer in this integration of media being part of it. So that's been probably big investments. Smaller investments I've done is like, I don't know at what point I decided every Thursday, and this dates back to 5+ years of every Thursday, no joke, besides the days that I'm gone, where then I get someone else to log in and do it for me. I am running around on my phone, looking like that vlogger, if you've ever seen him on a sidewalk, sharing about news and what the hell is going on. And so that commitment, I mean, it's a big commitment, time commitment, but it was a small commitment because I didn't have other people I had to rely on. It was just solely my personal tenacity to do it. Other things that I've done, like and I'm not an avid podcaster, but I've bought the equipment. I bought the Rodecaster Pro, which helps you manage multiple channels of audio, helps you do a call-in show, helps you add sound effects. I bought nice mics, but where I've lacked then is I'll buy the stuff, but then I get back to working and I don't necessarily use the stuff to its full potential. And so that's where I think you just have to have, if you're really committed to it, you have to have someone on your team that's helping you full-time do it. And before you make that commitment, you better be doing something on your phone every single week just to show that you can do it yourself, because it's kind of that analogy. You go buy the fancy camera gathers dust because you never were making anything here on a weekly basis. And it's all right here. I sent out a tweet this last week. I said, if you're a commercial real estate professional, do not buy the fancy camera unless you're doing weekly content on your phone. So that was at some point I committed to it. Gary V, I subscribed to him and he just was like, you have to do this. And I saw the return after not too much time to my bottom line.
That's awesome. Yeah, no. And obviously as far as these segments are concerned, is it primarily just you saying, okay, well, today I'm going to go to this retail corridor and we're just going to, walk around and kind of say, hey, kind of share some insights pertaining to that retail corridor. And then, maybe if a new business has popped up that you saw in your business first, you decide to stop by and just kind of introduce yourself. Is that kind of how you're approaching it?
We're such a small market. I can get anywhere in 10 to 15 minutes. So it's just like eyes on the skies, looking around through the week. Every single Thursday, 5 o'clock in the morning, I have an hour-long meeting that just has all the notes of all the things I've seen the week prior. And then it's basically, I'm just going to pull it up to give you an idea.
Sure. The
first thing I do in the morning is
Thursday's market update, where we talk about all things commercial real estate related, business related in the Rochester market. Let's go. First market update, new art gallery.
Sorry, it's a little blurry.
No worries.
So
I have to get inside and check it out.
I'm just walking around with my phone. This is 6:30 this morning. I'm peeking in the windows and I'm like, there's a new guitar shop in town. Check it out. And then I go to the next one. This hotel just changed a brand. I saw the news. I always give credit to the news if I saw it there first.
Mm-hmm.
The news wrote about it. It sold for $2.3 million. Here's a property that the news wrote about. So I'll give credit to them just like any other journalist would. It's kind of that media journalist mentality. And yeah, it's handy cam style all day long. The process is not polished. The process is not scientific. The process is hit record and do it consistently and don't stop.
That's awesome. No, and I mean, and over time, like you said, it refines your skill set. Because I know there's a lot of people, obviously, that sometimes are think, oh my gosh, getting on a camera and talking like I would to anyone, it's kind of a daunting thought. But as you start doing more and more, I mean, it seems like it'd be a really insightful way to say it. And obviously on the podcast front, you had mentioned, you had cameras and other equipment pertaining to the podcast. And I know just through our experience doing it, it does take a little bit of a time commitment up front. A lot of it is just getting the processes down and really setting it up so that, you just essentially can get the project, the interview scheduled, record, upload to the cloud, and then you have someone who can help you distribute it to where you need to distribute it to. But getting those systems in place can be kind of a pain early on. But once you have it, it theoretically should become, you show up for the interview, you interview, and then from there you just upload it to where you need to upload it to, and that's it. So.
And you're right. I think the process, I'm unfortunately not a very process oriented person. So I struggle in that realm. I'm very good at consistency, but I'm not so good at the process. And so there's always all these distractions, I feel like. And so if you are that type of person, yes, it becomes so much easier to produce consistent content.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, starting with bad content is better than starting with no content at all. So, I mean, you got to get started no matter how bad it is.
And the biggest thing is like, who's the judge of bad content? Like Gary Vee talks about this, right? So here's go look at some of my stuff. There's going to be plenty of polished commercial real estate agents that are going to say, that guy is a goofball. That guy why is he posting what he's posting? Right. Yeah. And some of my stuff is goofy, but it's me. And as a result, I can tell you the type of customers I attract are people that are goofy like me, people that are we just vibe. And then as a result, we build some pretty cool things. And so producing content, don't be your own judge. And Gary Vee talks about this of like, if you're a musician in today's era, you need to stop not recording and sharing the music. It's free to share the music. SoundCloud's basically free. Why are you being the judge of your music and not putting it out to the people to decide? And as a result, what happens is artists pass away and all these artists have this lockbox of music that they never released. And now today it's easier to do than ever before. You guys record, do it, watch the return that will happen from it. And what I'll say, I loved it with Snapchat early on. I could care less now. But like you said, I had no followers. I didn't grow up with Snapchat in high school. I didn't go to college. There was no one following me on Snapchat. So I could be myself. And then if someone happened to follow, I'd be like, how the hell did they find me? I have no idea. So then as that muscle started to get worked out, then it was like, oh, this is natural. I can do this all day long.
That's awesome. Well, great insights, Bucky. That's awesome, really. But one of the things we like to do near the end of the podcast episode is we like to learn a little bit more about what the most impactful book you've ever read is. And I know we're all voracious readers, and I know we've talked about podcasts, YouTube channels, et cetera. So if you want to incorporate some other type of media that you found extremely impactful, be happy to do so. But that's one of the questions we usually like to ask our guests to share.
I love it. I don't read books. I can't even tell you the last book I've ever read. Like I remember growing up reading kind of Captain Underpants, and I don't even know that I got through the whole thing. So I'm a watcher and I'm a listener, and that's how I learn. And so some of the people, obviously Gary Vee, I've overstated, but there's other people that I would say have been real inspirations for me and that I've really enjoyed. I'm really enjoying Alex Hormozy on YouTube right now. Alex, what I appreciate about his content is that he leads it with, I have nothing to sell you. I'm just here to help. And he, again, with that mentality of being a helper online, is getting opportunities to invest in companies that he helps grow. And I'll get these numbers wrong, but from 3 million to 30 million in revenue. And I just appreciate his, what feels like very genuine type of educational type of content. So love his stuff. I'm going to give you multiple because I watch too much. Think Media. So Think Media talks a lot about video content creation, and they are very much educators in this area. And I love a lot of the stuff that they produce. I mentioned Cody Sanchez. So there you go. Sorry, I didn't read any books lately.
No. And Alex Hormozy is he's amazing. He wrote a book that I'm an Audible guy. I listen to Audible all the time, like because I'm out and about, going to different showings and meeting with people, and so my car is essentially what I listen to on a regular basis. And Alex Hormozy wrote a book. I can't remember the name of it. It's like $100
million offers. Right
there you go. $100 million offers. Phenomenal book. I would highly encourage you guys to read it. It kind of tells you how to structure, your pitch so that you can
listen.
Attract. Yeah, you're listening to it.
No, I'm saying or listen to it.
Or listen. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry. I got to preface that. No, but really, it's a phenomenal book, and again, great insights.
What are you? Are you an Audible guy? Like that's the app for sure that you use?
Yeah, that's the big thing for me. So I have like the subscription for two credits a month. And so what I usually do is like when I'm driving to showing or driving around, like I'll put on a book and just listen to it. And, I usually speed it up a little bit because you can listen a lot faster than I believe you can listen faster than you can read. And so, I could put it at like 1.5 or 2 times speed. And then, you just kind of get through a lot of stuff. So that's kind of what I've taken the approach of.
Cool. Yeah. I have not been able to adapt to it. I feel like whenever I get those monthly subscription things, I'm like, oh, they're hosing me again, taking more money from me. I'm not doing that. I'm just I'm getting this stuff from YouTube for relatively free.
Absolutely. No, and I still listen to, I do that a lot too. Now that YouTube, before I think you couldn't have the app open and like have your navigation and stuff open, but now you can have the app open if it's video. If it's music, I still think that you can't have it open at the same time. But if you have like, Joe Rogan podcast or something like that, you could have it live in your Bluetooth or in your car, and you can still have your navigation for going around and stuff. And I'm like illiterate when it comes to navigation, so I need to have that to reference. Otherwise, like I'm going to get lost.
Yeah, I hear you. I'll try again this year. I don't know, but YouTube, yeah, that's where I'm at.
That's awesome.
Bucky, we really appreciate you coming on. I do. I enjoyed that your story and how you've kind of went through the years and grown and into entrepreneurship more and more. It seems like it'd be interesting to see where you're at in the next 10 years for sure. So one of the questions that we do as we're winding out the podcast is we have a CRE treasure chest, which is a repository of things that can be like a monthly newsletter that maybe there's a post in there, or it could be an ebook or something that you think that would give value to our listeners, and that you would be willing to give us to contribute.
So yeah, it's a piece of digital content that we have people usually contribute something small. It doesn't have to be anything significant, or if you have any marketing material or anything like that, it could be of value to the audience. We'd happy to add it to our repository.
So I think where my mind goes, video first is what I know how to produce. If I were to produce a how to create your own market update on a regular basis, and that could become and we'll keep it as an unlisted YouTube video, right? And that's something that they can pull from the treasure chest. I would love to do that as my, very first kind of documenting in depth how the heck to do it, because it pays dividends for sure.
Oh, that'd be great.
That'd be phenomenal. I know a lot of people would gain value from that, so we appreciate that, really.
I mean, I'll gain value from it. I just to see how you do it, compared to how I'm doing it. Maybe you figured out the secret sauce. I'm not sure yet. We'll figure it out. Can't wait to watch. So yeah, we appreciate that.
You bet.
Definitely. Well, Bucky, we greatly appreciate your time. I know you're busy, and we're really excited to have this being distributed so people can, really gain insights from what we discussed today. As far as people wanting to learn more about you, or, if they're, in your local market looking to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do so?
All over, wherever you want to reach me, I'm on all channels. I really enjoy Facebook, honestly. It's an easy place to message, thanks to Messenger. And I would just say, keep an eye on my YouTube. I'm excited for this next year of more content coming out there. If you want to see some of the true works that I'm up to over the next year, that's where I'm going to sink a lot of time and energy.
Awesome. Well, it's not sync, it's productive, right? It's productive energy towards it. That's awesome, man. No, we're excited, and we'll go ahead and include that in the show notes. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube, feel free to go to the description and you'll be able to see all that information. If you guys are listening to this in a podcast format, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., it'll be in the description as well. So again, Bucky, thank you so much for your time. We greatly appreciate it. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, we would greatly appreciate if you can like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message. Along with that, if you guys are listening to this in an Apple Podcast format, Spotify, you name it, doesn't really matter. We would greatly appreciate a 5-star review. It really does make an impact in our ability to reach a broader audience, and we do appreciate all the support. So thanks again so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.